welcome. It is September 29th, and this is the poster session for our Fall Teamconnect conference. A huge thank you to our poster session presenters for sharing their time, knowledge, and experience today regarding the topics that we are going to cover. Our poster panelists this morning are Stephanie Wiant, who is the youth librarian, Washington County Free Library. And as soon as we kind of get situated here, I will showcase all of our presenters so you are easily able to locate them and they can be visible on your screens. Stephanie's from Youth Librarian, Washington County Free Library, and she's going to be speaking to us this morning about two programs that she is working on there. Isaiah West is the Teen Services Specialist with Prince George's County Memorial Library System, and Isaiah is going to share about their social justice camp that happened this summer. Amber George is the Teen Services Associate, Carroll County Public Library, speaking about a space for everyone. Laura Ellis, Library Media Specialist, Montgomery Public Schools, is not able to be with us this morning. She is ill, unfortunately, but we do have her slide, and hopefully we will be able to capture like a video from Laura and put that with her slide.
I'm here.
Oh, Laura, you are here.
Yeah.
Heart. Thank you.
I may not be able to.
Never mind. Laura is here. Thank you. And then we also have Tia Jennings from Baltimore County Public Library, Youth and Family Engagement Specialist. And Tia is going to be speaking to us this morning about their Building Buddies Service Hours Learning Program. So very, very excited. Their full bios are on the Teamconnect website, but we are so grateful, especially Laura's fighting through the germs this morning to be with us, and we really appreciate it. Each presenter will be sharing for about 5 to 7 minutes. In order to ensure that all of our presenters have the same opportunity and time to share their initiatives, we ask that you hold your questions until all the presenters have shared and shared their presentations, and then we will open up for a big Q&A discussion where you can ask specifically to each presenter, or you can kind of ask in general and they can all pitch in their responses. But let's even hold them in the chat. Just jot them on a Post-it note or somewhere so you don't forget. Make your parking lot. We want all those questions, but we're just trying to keep the chat quiet so no one's distracted as they're presenting and not trying to answer and share at the same time. We'll get all the posters presented and then we'll open it up for Q&A. All right, so I think we are ready to get started. I am going to turn it over to Stephanie, and she's going to share and get us going this morning about two teen programs happening in Washington County. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. I will begin to share my screen, and I have that capability. Is that correct? All right. Let me see here. 1 second. All right, is everybody able to see the Teen Thrive poster? Thumbs up. Thanks, Megan. All right, I see you. So I have two this morning. The first one is Teen Thrive. Teen Thrive is about empowering teens through creativity and meditation. This originally started in February. My colleague, Jackie Williams, she and I decided that we wanted to work on something that would provide some calm and some peace for our teens. So I created and started Teen Thrive. And I want to go over just a brief blueprint of how that was conducted. If any of you all are interested in meeting with me one-on-one, and I can go through the actual PowerPoints that I created for this and go over how we featured this, I'm happy to do that with you. So Teen Thrive was launched in February, and what we did for that is, for example, in February, we highlighted two poets, Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou. And during that time, we just provided basic information about them, such as where they were born, shared some of their poetry. We also pulled some clips about their poetry and how they performed it, and just some of their basic ideas and what they brought to the world and what they contributed to the world. As we were discussing them, I had the teens read the poetry out loud so they could connect with the words and find some cadence, find some calm, find some rhythm with the words in an actual tangible form, right? Not through their phones, but to really encourage literacy through poetry and really taking time to read the words. The more time we spent with the teens and going through the poetry, we also explored some art activities. So then we would encourage them to maybe take a few lines from Langston Hughes and create their own poem. And then we would encourage them to create a bookmark from their own poetry. Following that, we would end with meditation to reflect on what they may have learned, what they may have gathered, just some words that may have spoken to them, what inspired them. And then we also encourage them to take those meditation practices with them out into the world. So if they're getting ready for a test, to remind them to just take a few simple deep breaths. The power of 3 breaths. I mean, if we think about it right now, has anyone taken a conscious breath today? Has anybody really taken a full expansive breath? If you think about even the preparation of getting here together and us talking with each other, I don't think I have. So I'm going to do that now. I invite you all to do that now if you choose to. Just a conscious breath, whatever that means to you. Creating pause. And if it was uncomfortable for any of you to have a moment of stillness, imagine what that invitation's like with a teenager when they're constantly in the go, in the busy, in the checklist of things. It was an experience to invite them to just sit with silence because a lot of them aren't used to that. But that's just a brief introduction of what Teen Thrive is. It empowers teens through creativity and meditation, encouraging stillness, encouraging artistry, and to engage with poetry. And poetry is the anchor. It is the invitation to get them to a place where they feel connected to us and they're comfortable exploring art. They're comfortable exploring the meditation and silence. And again, if you have any questions about this, if you want to go through the actual PowerPoints with me, I'm happy to do that with you. And anytime, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is Emerge. And Emerge is specifically designed for our age group, ages 18 to 25. It's about helping new adults discover their full potential while emerging into adulthood. Emerge grew from Teen Thrive. We had Teen Thrive going strong for February and March. And then in March, I had a heart-to-heart conversation with one teen and one emerging adult at the time who was attending Teen Thrive. And they were sharing that they didn't feel like there was any programming available to them after they aged out of teen services. And for some of you who've heard this story before, I really took that conversation heart to heart. Long story short, I created programming for this age group just to start creating a home base for them. So they did have a space, some type of programming at the library that they could connect to. And that's how Emerge started. As of right now, we've had 20 emerging adults come through programming. We have 4 that are now housed. We now have 2 that are working, 3 that are working, and it just continues to grow. I just met 2 emerging adults yesterday, and they attended our weekly meditation class that we have for them, 22 and 24, Tori and Gabby, and they just stumbled upon the library and they were just hanging out in the teen section and getting to know them. I invited them to Emerge programming. What we have right now for Emerge, because of just the nature of how things can be with staffing and making sure I'm doing my responsibilities to assist with Miss Jackie when she needs me, is every Monday we have the Teamconnect room and in our section open to them from 1 to 4. It was originally going to be on the 3rd floor in adult services, but that was too strenuous to try to pull staff in 2 different spaces. So we had to really work with what we have. So currently right now, they meet every Monday 1 to 4 as their home base. They have Nintendo Switch available to them. They can go over their resume with us. They can talk about their cover letter. They can just have someone to listen to. They know from this time frame, myself is here or Miss Jackie's here, and they have also people in the adult sections to talk to. But if they're not comfortable doing that, they know that they have one of us here in the teen section where they're still comfortable and they're not really ready ready to go on to that next chapter of their life. Through Monday programming, that's when we advertise if we have a guest speaker. So if we have somebody coming in wanting to do yoga movement with them, or if there's going to be someone to lead music meditation. We just had a partnership created with a local community college with one of the music instructors who just provided tickets to Macbeth at the Maryland Theater. So we're also creating sponsorships, and we're creating community partnerships where people can donate and do sponsorships. We also created a partnership with Macy's with a local talent acquisition officer by the name of Charles Keller. He provides snacks for them every week, so we don't have to have that come out of our budget. So again, these are all partnerships and experiences that are on every Monday with their home base. From home base, again, that's when we talk about other services. So the weekly meditation that we have is every Wednesday, 5:30 to 6:30. That's just a space for them to, again, to get familiar with silence, to feel comfortable in silence, find those little moments of vulnerability where they can explore things that maybe that they haven't talked about. Some of the questions we talked about yesterday were just some of their childhood memories or some good childhood memories. We also invite a lot of meditation with just coloring and crowns, the simplicity of that, trying to take a lot of the noise that they experience outside of the library and just kind of mute that for a moment and invite some pause in an adult level with other adults. So the meditation class is not just for emerging adults 18 to 25. It also includes all adults from 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to 90, all the elders. So they have a chance to really experience social skills that maybe they've missed during COVID. Because a lot of them, their goal is to have a job one day. And our goal is during meditation is to create places for them to develop their social skills, which leads to soft skills. And we all know how important the soft skills are. Again, if any of y'all have any questions about Emerge programming and some things that are developing with that, I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one. The latest with Emerge is Mayor Keller from Hagerstown did meet with me, and she's invited me to speak at the City Council lead the next meeting in October to really make sure we have politicians involved. We have our local government, our local leaders involved, because we do see this becoming preventative and productive care for this age group. I do feel like this age group can really provide a positive trajectory or a negative trajectory for their community because they are really looking for an anchor. They had that swimming pool, K through 12, they had guidance, they had parameters. Now they're in the ocean and a lot of them don't know how to swim. And I feel like the library system is a perfect place for them to pause and reflect on the next steps that maybe they want to consider in their life. And that's the goal with Emerge programming, is to connect them with each other, connect them to their community, and provide consistency for positivity in their life. Thank you very much, you all.
Stephanie, thank you. So exciting, this work. You and I have been in touch a lot, and I'm thrilled for you to bring this and let us all begin to really think about how we can work with that emerging adult population and the impact they can have and what we can have in their lives. So thank you. And we are going to ensure there will be some questions and some discussions. So we will definitely look forward to that. But I am going to now turn it over. Let me stop highlighting Stephanie. And now we're going to have Isaiah present about Social Justice Camp. And I'm going to highlight Isaiah so everybody gets to see you, Isaiah. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. Pull up my slides. So I will go ahead and preface this with, I'm actually presenting this at YALSA, so I had to cut down 50 minutes into 5. So it is not as thorough as I would like, but I will do my best to describe the saga that was Social Justice Camp as well as I can.
That's a great plug for the symposium too. Everybody should sign up and try to go to hear the full story that Isaiah will share.
You're not aware, it's local this year in Baltimore. I am the opening session, 8 a.m. So bring your coffee. So Social Justice Camp this summer at Prince George's County Memorial Library System, we offered not your typical summer camp. We provided a space for teens to engage in advocacy and activism and social justice through a variety of different methods, primarily through discussion and learning. So the first thing is the why and the how. So social justice is aligned in our strategic framework. It's explicitly stated multiple times throughout our goals and our framework and our pillars. So it already aligned with what we were doing. We just weren't really doing a lot of it. Our teens had expressed over and over again in teen action groups that they wanted to be more involved in social justice. Sorry, my cat has to make a cameo because he hears me speaking. And these teens just didn't know where to start or what to do, but they really wanted to, and they felt like they needed to work with their community and be in their community and do something special. We wanted to incite conversation in the community about community. We didn't really focus, I mean, we talked about historical movements and large movements in that way, but when we tried to get them to hone in on a special project, we really tried to keep it local. We tried to say, what if we narrow this down to this specific population that's really affected in our county? Or instead of looking at like this nationally, what about just looking at Maryland or maybe the DC region? But we wanted to create that conversation about local community, your community, embedding yourself in that community. And then, of course, the last thing, we really wanted to incorporate connected learning with social justice. As I'm sure a lot of us know, connected learning is a really helpful tool when working with teens in general, but it's that wonderful intersection of their interests plus like that community need and that civic engagement in this specific instance. So we decided that the end result of this camp would be an elevator pitch for a project that they could take out into the world. So we wanted to equip them with everything that they could possibly need to go out into the world and actually affect change in their communities. I'm not going to linger too much on this. This is how we did it. We had immediate buy-in from our upper administration. We were lucky in the fact that we had received a grant that had social justice in the terminology. So we got to use that money pretty much however we wanted, as long as it met the needs of the initial grant, and social justice was one of those. This was led by branch staff, and a couple of the branch staff that helped lead this are here today. So if I have any questions, I might actually ask them to jump in. But we were super lucky that we had a lot of buy-in from our branch staff as well. We trained our branch staff on the curriculum that we developed. And we were lucky to have peer mentors this summer, which were teens that assisted with these social justice camps. We used multimodal learning. We did a lot of breaks. This is a lot of heavy stuff that you talk about, and we understood that that is not always going to, make the best learners. So we really tried to create space for breaks and mental health checks, things like that. We had a variety of resources from a variety of different places. So some of them were nonprofit organizations, some of them were governmental, some of them were worldwide, international, some of them were local. We really tried to highlight as many places that they could find information on their topic as they could. And then, of course, we took the camp model and then we modified it to meet our needs. We worked with experts in the field of technology and social justice. We had people talk about the digital divide and digital inequity. We had people come in and talk about using art as a creative outlet for social movement. We had teens come in that are already activists We had quite a few teens talk about organizations that they've started that are helping communities of color. We've had teens come in and talk about their path to just more of a social justice angle of like doing, so environmental work and what they do to try to restore our environment. And then, of course, we highlighted and worked with community organizations to provide information on specific topics. I do want to highlight this image. This was probably one of my favorite things that we did, which was a gallery walk where we highlighted 20 different activists of different generations, different ages, and the teens went and engaged with each activist to learn what they did, the method of advocacy that they used. So we had some that were authors, some that were artists, some that were organizations that created policy change. And it just so happens that this image shows 3 young people learning about 3 young people. And I really enjoy seeing that. So we created a framework of our own when we wanted to talk about social justice in this camp. So of course, the big thing is like, what is social justice? And if I had more time, I would go through this activity with you all because I think it's really interesting. Social justice means something different to every individual, and none of them are 100% correct, and none of them are wrong. And that's okay. Like, we have to be comfortable living in the ambiguity of social justice if we're going to be involved in social justice. So getting the teens to understand that right up front really set the tone for the week. We talked about the history of advocacy, activism, and social justice as platforms for change. Our big thing is, what is your why? Like, you can't change the entire world and rid the world of everything. You have to focus in on one topic. What are you most passionate about? What skills can you lend to that? We joked a lot that this camp was really just project management camp with a little bit of a social justice slant, because we talked a lot about research methods. We wanted to make sure that these teens were not getting all of their information from TikTok, which we learned this summer. I think like 40% of teens get their information from TikTok, which is startling. But we wanted to make sure that they knew how to actually research these topics and know what is valid and what is conjecture. We talked about the different types of advocacy and activism. We talked about art, tech, community movements, all of the things, all the peaceful things. We really focused in on peaceful forms of advocacy and activism. Again, project development and project management, which incorporated time management. It's really interesting. Stephanie was talking about how busy teens are. One of our activities that we did was have them map out their time throughout the week and see how can they fit social justice into the busy schedule that they already have. And we had some teens that had like negative hours because they're constantly multitasking on certain tasks. So instead of 24 hours a day, their day looked like they were actually doing like 32 hours worth of stuff. We talked a lot about ethics too, which is I think that was the part that our staff had the hardest time with, feeling like they were expert enough to talk about ethics. And that's really where that facilitation versus teacher comes into play. And then, of course, we talked about the importance of stakeholders and partnerships. And then we talked about the implementation, the assessment, and the critiques in that iteration loop that will continuously exist. So this is what a typical day for us looked like. We had breakfast, we welcomed them. There were about 3 sessions per day with breaks in between. We provided lunch for them. There was time at the end of the day for project development and for them to work one-on-one with us or whatever partner or organization that was in that day to help out. We provided time for self-care, which was just breaks, stretching, health checks, get up and move, full body checks, all of those things. And then we always ended the day with a share out, which is, what did you learn and what do you want to learn more about? They knew it was coming every day, so they knew what to kind of look for throughout their day. We wanted to make sure that they were thinking critically about what was happening. And then, of course, what everyone's probably interested in is, did people come? Our registration filled up immediately. Some of our camps filled up. Sorry, my cat is playing with something plastic, so I'm sorry if you can hear it. It's too far away for me to stop. So our registration filled up within days, fully, like 20 people registered. We had a wait list that we had to close within the first week of some of our camps. Of course, we know not everyone's going to come, which is fine. 20 teens for social justice camp would actually be a lot, dealing with the topics that you're talking about. So that 15 was our sweet spot anyway. As you can see, I've broken it down by those that attended fully, those that attended 2 to 3 days, and those that only came 1 day and decided not for me, which is fine. As you can see, some of our camps, like Hyattsville, it was pretty much full attendance the entire time. Bowie was the complete opposite. We called it our pancake, our first pancake. It burnt a little bit, and that's okay too. We knew that it probably wasn't going to be perfect, but we learned a lot from that first one. And by the time we made it to like our Spalding's branch and our Hyattsville branch later in the summer, we had things a bit more under control. We changed around some of the techniques that we were using and became more adaptive. It was skewed very young, which is one of the changes we would make. We wanted to open it up to those rising 9th graders just because they would be entering high school and they would be getting involved in things like this. That might have been a mistake. Some rising 9th graders are mature enough to take on this week-long camp. Others were not. We think that it might be best to keep it to those that were in high school the previous year, just to make sure that the learning is a bit more continuous and the maturity level is high. We had some romances blossom and burn within summer camp. It was the true summer camp experience. And it caused a little bit more drama than we were hoping for. And then this is my favorite thing to show. These were the topics that the teens ended their week researching and going out into the world trying to change. As you can see, environmentalism, mental health, gun violence, Black representation, those were everywhere. And those topics ranged from like cleaning our waterways, creating spaces for those that are in not just, they're struggling with mental health, but they're in mental crisis. Gun violence could be anywhere from school safety to gun legislation. Black representation really ran the gamut. It was Black representation in sports, in video games, in media, in anime and manga. Like, these teens were fantastic, and they brought so much knowledge to the table that we would not have even thought about. So it really does just show teens are the best population to work with. They're not quite as jaded as adults, and they have a little bit more experience than our kiddos. It was just a great 5 weeks of camp, and I'm happy to talk to anyone about starting one at your library. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaiah. I know the chat is really, really excited, and you're going to have some questions down the road. It's just amazing work, and I think it's very inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing. And I think now we're going to turn it over to Amber. I'm going to switch spotlights here, and Amber is here to talk about teen spaces. So let me grab Amber here. Hang on. Oh, there you go. Okay, Amber, you're on.
Hi, let me just get to my slide. I'm gonna share my screen, throw my, I cannot share my screen.
Should be able to now.
Okay, cool.
I'm sorry.
No worries. All right, where am I? Let's get into here. And then I'll click present. Please let me click present. Cool and fun. So sorry. Oop, there it goes. Cool. The original prompt for this was kind of talking about something that you were inspired by from a previous Teamconnect. So I really took a lot out of the panel Claiming a Space back in spring 2022. Really kind of tried to pull that together for what I was doing at the Monterey Bridge Library in Carroll County. So especially because post-pandemic, it's kind of been hard to grab folks into the branch and kind of figure out, because needs are a little different of the population that you're serving. And I hate to say post-pandemic, so it's more like, I guess, post-quarantine, but through pandemic is a phrase that I'm trying to use more because pandemic is still an occurring thing. So through a pandemic and into like the second year of the pandemic, kind of reimagining space. So we pulled all of our chairs out and like took out spacing during like the biggest and spiciest parts of quarantine, and then worked on figuring out how to make a space feel both comfortable for teens again as they kind of filter. We like want them to filter back into the library and use our space again after like a weird time away. So there are three things that I've kind of filtered through in order to kind of build more of a space physically in our branch as well, kind of to make sure that teens and folks feel like they can use the space and that they are welcome, but that they also feel that in this, through the pandemic world, that they are welcome. So there are things like we want them to feel safe, seen, and satisfied by the space that they are in. So with in terms of safety is also COVID safety and also just personal safety, right? Because we all want to feel like we are, especially in a library, that we are using a space and we are welcome there. And that's welcome. Feeling welcome is part of safety. So we got lots of floor space for easy movement. We reorganized the way that we made nooks, sort of. And so we make sure that they're easy to scoot around, and for folks who, like for ease of movement, for folks of all sizes and shapes, and for people with all sorts of mobility. So we got lots of floor space, but we've also got easily movable chairs. And then we've tried to make kind of nooks now. So there are, like, as you can see in the one picture, there's the 3 chairs together for that group of like 3 friends to use. But there's also, instead of necessarily like big table of lots of chairs, there's less chairs around it, but they still, and adjacent, but so that everybody's kind of got like pods if you want to hang out with your friends or study with your friends, but also staying socially distanced. So kind of building pods of congregation in our teen space was a slightly different way that we kind of thought through the pandemic. And with vulnerable populations are welcome, so we always give out, we have like free masks for folks and hand sanitizer as well. And I feel that the nooks and like kind of the pods of seating and places to go have helped kids stay in the branch with their friends or with their study groups, while also being able to stay like so more distanced if they want to. They're free to move chairs around. We do not care as long as they put them back. So if they want more seating, they usually will just scoot it. And we don't mind that at all. I also took from the Claiming a Space from spring that teens want to feel seen. So we used, I started putting out more jokes and funny things in the teen space. So we want folks to feel that not necessarily, like I really took the idea of, hey, this is not a classroom adjacent space to heart. So we try to make it feel a little bit more cozy, a little less rigid. So we put lots of many more jokes, and then we encourage kids to also write their own. If they've got like, so we have lots of like goofy, like silly things floating around in that space that kind of helps them feel like welcome, and also has kind of brought them in and going, oh, this is a fun space to be in. We make sure that we've started doing more inclusive displays, and we've also, what I really like is that we've now put out more homework help, like where to find this for homework, where to find this without talking to a librarian, because lots of folks, especially like, again, through the COVID world, have a harder time talking to adults than they might have in the past. So easily accessible homework help and like homework questions or big topic questions being more accessible to them on displays and with signage has actually been pretty helpful and useful as well. And in terms of being seen, I've also started a small, very small, but a little free library within the library. It's not the little free library because that's a trademark, and so we call it the free little library within the library. And it doesn't matter. But we've started putting out in this county or in this branch, we've started putting out free books, especially because we've noticed that some teens were coming in recently who didn't necessarily have like the means to get a library card, or didn't want to pull out library cards or weren't with their adult to help them grab a library card, but they still wanted to check out books. And this was a thing that we noticed that was happening a little bit more, again, second year into the pandemic for whatever reason. So like our withdrawn YA books immediately just go there so that folks can take them without having to talk to somebody. We make sure that there's nonfictions there too. And I've also recently started using my teen advisory board to help with our maintaining the free little library and also with ideas of what can go in there next. So my teen advisory board, because they're teens, have suggested things like notebooks and pencils and paper because I wouldn't have necessarily thought of that. So that these children also feel seen, and that it's easy for them to use the library without necessarily talking to somebody, but still feeling like they are welcome. And that's actually gone pretty good. All of our notebooks were gone after like the first week of the school district, which I really loved. So I can't wait to keep that up. And then also with spaces and from Claiming a Space, we want kids to feel satisfied. We want them to make sure that there are programs that they can attend, but they also feel safe, and that there's also, they feel that we are listening to them. So we got lots of accessible board games. I switch out the board games every now and then and make sure that there's always something new. The board games are by the Free Little Library, which I think helps. Both of those things get seen. And And so there's always like a puzzle of the week, or there's usually a puzzle of the week that we'll try to put out to encourage folks to kind of start using that puzzle, which helps them migrate to the space. But also there are programs. So Carroll County does a system-wide programs, so as well as branch programs, so which I really love, especially post-pandemic. So the Teens Advisory or the Teen Services Committee will do, like, each quarter do a program throughout the county. And so in terms of accessibility, and I really love that, so that there's like something that they can attend and that they know is happening throughout the county. We've also got virtual programs, but we've also got in-person programs. And in terms of, again, figuring out what we need post-pandemic, I've started making sure that programs are registered, and that they are like, we try to like keep like 15 to 20 capping. We have a huge meeting room, and we try to keep, we ask that folks wear masks as well to make sure that they are safe if they want to wear masks. But we also try to do programs in the teen space, especially on the weekends, when it is encroached upon by other folks. And so that really helps them also feel that that space is theirs as well. So I guess through the pandemic, kind of figuring out the different needs, what teens needed before and what teens have needed through the pandemic. It's been an interesting challenge, but I feel like we've kind of made a really cozy space here in my branch. So thank you so much.
Amber, lots of great thoughts and comments in the chat. So I know you're going to get some questions too. So now I am going to look for Laura here and have her be our next share. So let me get some spotlighting taken care of here and find Laura. Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Laura Ellis, and right now my share screen is still disabled.
I'm coming. Hang on.
No problem. I apologize. I have been ill, and later today I'm going to have a COVID screening at my doctor, because even though I tested positive, we're learning that the test kits are not always accurate. I'm at home instead of school today. Okay. First of all, I'm from Wheaton High School. I am the library media specialist. And what I took away from the previous, could everyone see my screen? I'm sorry. No? Okay, you can't see my screen, I hope.
We can.
You can or you cannot?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. So first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And secondly, what I took away from the previous Teamconnect was the emphasis on mental health and trauma. And I was part of a panel that talked about trauma. Coming out of COVID in the school setting, so many things have transpired. And one of the things that we experienced last year was an increase in student incidences of violence. You may recall at Magruder High School, there was a shooting. And at my high school in Wheaton in Montgomery County, students brought weapons on campus last year. And sadly, we've already experienced some of that this year. So I have done a number of programs for teachers and students talking about, well, primarily for teachers talking about mental health. What you see here on my slide, and I apologize, I'm not at work, I'm at home, are just some of the students who testified on May 26th to the Board of Education, asking, pleading, and demanding more telehealth for mental health through a program called Our Minds Matter. which provides students the opportunity to get more mental health and to be advocates for themselves and to lead the mental health journey with supervision from staff. I was very impressed by what the students did because there were students from all over the county that testified. Some did in person, some did their testimonies online. And I was very proud of our students because we as teachers can advocate for things, but it's nice to know that what we do with our students allows them to feel empowered to advocate for themselves. As a result of their advocacy, I'm sorry, my speech, I'm only going to take a few minutes. As a result of their testimonies, all schools will now have, all 26 high schools will now have our Live Matters groups. And before their testimony, only 6 schools had wellness centers. One of those 6 schools was my school. Now every single high school in Montgomery County will also have a wellness center. Every single high school now also has a social worker. So I'm very proud that my school system is slowly but surely addressing mental health issues for students. They are slowly providing mental health issues for our teachers as well. If I'm able to go to school tomorrow, depending on how I feel, I will be leading a session about gun violence and personal safety, because gun violence continues to be an issue for our young people in our schools, in their neighborhoods and communities. So we are trying very hard to do this and make room. All of us at the high school, all levels of schools now have to spend a certain amount of time each week sharing and providing mental health support for our students. It is rocky because we are not, as teachers, mental health experts, but we are dedicated to making sure our students have the support they need. And we are dedicated to letting our students know that we are trusted adults and that they can come and talk to us. Even if we can't provide the service personally for our students, we have avenues now to provide that support for our students and their families. So I'm very, very happy about this, because when we came back from COVID last year, we just came back as if nothing happened. And that was horrible for everyone. And so the school system is finally addressing these mental health issues for our students and our staff. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm sorry, my voice is going in and out. I don't want to talk any longer because I may lose my voice again. And I hope you've been able to understand me. If not, I truly apologize. But thank you for your time and consideration.
Laura, thank you so much. We can definitely hear you. We can understand you, and we can definitely hear the passion and the care you have for all the teens. So we are so grateful for that work. And it's very inspiring.
Thank you. And I did provide a link. So anyone who wants to watch any of the students' testimony, I did put a link with the resources at any time. It's for the public, so you can actually hear and see the teens advocating for themselves. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, it just kind of resonates again what Isaiah was talking about, and how they can be so impactful in their work and their interests, and how they can speak up for others and other issues, as well as speak up for themselves. So thank you so much. All right, I am going to find Tia, and Tia is going to do our last poster presentation, and I'm seeking, let me find Tia, hang on, find Tia. There we are. All right, there you go.
Okay, making sure that we can see everything. Can you see
Yes.
the poster? Yes. Okay, yep. Great. All right. Hi. It's weird. Wait, I need to move this so I can see faces. Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Tia. I am a youth and family engagement specialist at Baltimore County Public Library. And I I made a poster. I Googled it. I learned how to make like a poster slide. So I'm pretty proud of this poster looking slide. So I am here to talk about our summer service learning hour program. It's called Building Buddies. And before I start, I want to say that I work in admin, so I am not hosting the programs. I'm not working face-to-face with the teams all the time, but I work closely with our teen engagement councils. Some of them are here today, to get feedback and support and kind of find out like what are our teens asking for, and how to create programs for the system that hopefully work in all or most of our branches. And I also work closely with Carrie and the state and other counties to get ideas about the teens and what they need to make things happen. So I am here to share some feedback about the programs that our wonderful librarians hosted in the branches. So, you know, COVID, so we didn't have teens in our branch during the summer until 2022. This was our first year back. And prior to that, we had teens manning tables and helping people register for summer reading and kind of just hanging out sometimes. And we decided that this year we wanted to kind of change things up and meet the needs now. And we found that connecting with our school system and finding out what their service learning hour requirements are, we wanted to align more closely with that. So we created this program called Building Buddies, where teens are paired with elementary aged youth to work together to build a STEM-based craft. And the brainstorming kind of started within our Teen Engagement Council. And after talking to our school system, I called Matt Barinholtz from Future Makers, who we've worked with a lot. He provided snacks for many of our counties, so some of you might remember those. He's hosted trainings, makerspace trainings and such. So I just emailed him and was like, hey, I have an idea. I think we can like do a thing with kids and crafts and teens. And we hummed and hawed. Like there were moments we were on our Zoom call like, what can we do? What could this look like? And I shared with him a program, our Reading Buddies program. And then we just kind of started to put the pieces together. And we purchased snacks, the kind of like take home craft kits from Future Makers and provided them at every branch. The branches hosted 3 programs each or so where there was flexibility. And that became the program. We had a staff training. Matt presented about the importance of STEM and how to work with the teens to develop that kind of hands-on teaching element for the teens to work with the youth. And we also learned how to make the crafts. And then we had our programs. We hosted, like I said, there were about 3 programs per branch. Youth, elementary age youth registered for the program and aligned with, they registered for the program and then they were paired up with a teen. And some branches did not have a lot of teens that applied, so they made it work however they could. Maybe it was a table and youth came up to the table to work with one teen to just kind of build it that way. But the original idea was that kind of buddy connection. So between June and August, we had 208 teens that showed up and they earned about 1,560 service learning hours. And we had about 54 programs and 1,093 participants. And we counted the teens in that because it was a program. The programs basically looked like for the teens, we did a setup time where they would learn the craft or go over the craft again, set up the tables. There were additional activities. Each branch kind of did extra things, like maybe they did, took pictures and did a selfie station or played a game like a warm up or icebreaker. So they had a setup time and then they actually did the program. And then afterwards, they broke everything down and had some time for reflection. So what worked for the program was that when it worked the way we imagined it working, it was beautiful. I attended a few programs and I talked to the parents who were sitting in the back, happily watching their elementary age youth interact with a teenager in the room and happy to have that free time. But outside of just being like, oh, we have this free time, it was like they were saying like, this is a great opportunity for their kids to talk to teenagers and kind of get to know them and allow the teens to engage with the youth and be playful and have fun. And so it worked really well. And also it aligned with our school service learning hour requirements. So theirs is really about, you know, providing, like finding an issue to address, which, you know, building buddies wasn't like an issue, like social justice camp issues and things to address, but we had an opportunity to, you know, build connection and community. So finding that issue and then addressing it with an action and then reflecting. So it was a really great example of a program that really was a service learning hour program for us. You can see the teen feedback. We got only great feedback from the teens. The only negative feedback we received was that we didn't give them shirts. We usually give them shirts, but we did not give them shirts this year. And one of them did miss the old way of doing it, just kind of hanging out at the branch and helping people as needed. But in general, they were saying they become more of a leader, they're patient, they really enjoyed making an impact in other kids' lives. So I think it worked for them. We did a summer reading wrap up with staff a couple weeks ago and focused in on this program. And in general, the feedback was that, you know, it was easy, it was engaging, it was nice to have a kind of program in a box, just kind of have it right there and off you go. But we also, you know, reflected on the fact that that format doesn't work in all the branches, which is fine, but maybe we can find something with a little more flexibility. And we also had a lot of no-shows, both the teens and the registered elementary age youth. So in the moment, we had to kind of juggle and figure out like if teens didn't show and how to buddy them up or not. And so that's the program. It was a pilot. And so I think in general, from the time we trained all the way through till now, I've been saying like, it was a pilot. It's a pilot. Make it work. Let's see what we can do. And we'll come back and rethink it for next year. So we are rethinking it for next year. So what I learned from Teamconnect, I learned that teens want to engage in their library. They want to have a voice. They want to create these programs. They're not just like, oh, we want to come in and be loud and throw basketballs in the toilet. Like, no, they actually want to do things. I only see like Isaiah, so that's what I'm feeling. They want to do things. And and also I learned personally to advocate for these types of programs, to create more types of these programs and spaces for that. So we just created our system-wide teen advisory board, which kicks off now. And then finally, I've been on the Teamconnect programming team for like 4 or 5 years. Like we just forget how long, but during those pandemic years, and I've learned so much from everyone. So just taking like the general good feeling of like, it's okay. Teens are teens. We're just going to do it. It's going to be fine. We can do this. And creative ideas, just pulling pieces of everyone's spaces, ideas, and Isaiah's social justice camp and Laura's mental health elements, like pulling ideas and creating programs that I think will work for us. That's what I've learned the most. I've learned to just collaborate and listen and learn. So that's our program. That's what I've learned.
Tia, thank you. That's a great summary of what we're trying to accomplish when we hold these events, and just let everyone see what they can hear and learn and ponder and what might work for them in their systems. But I love the attitude that the teens, they're there, they need us, we need them, and it's just such really a privilege. I miss working with them directly, and so I kind of go vicariously through all of the things that you all are doing, and I just love the relationships and the trust and that you're building. So I know we're here. These have been amazing initiatives that we've heard about, and we are technically supposed to break at 10:45. For a 15-minute break, but I think we're going to push back our schedule. We have a fewer book talks scheduled because of some illness with another book talker. So I think we're going to just hang in here. We're going to do Q&A for the next 15 minutes, and we'll take a break at 11. If anybody needs to pop out and come back in right now, of course, you can do that. But we do have some pointed questions that came in the chat. And I want to make sure we address those. And then I want to give everyone else an opportunity to ask either a specific question to one of our presenters or just in general. I always like to have time for just some good discussion and sharing in general. So I think I'll circle back. First of all, Amber, there were a couple questions for you in terms of space. So one of those was really a little more information, if you can share. There was a lot of interest about the homework help and how you can offer that without necessarily a librarian being involved. So if you could talk to that for a minute or two.
For sure. So I've put out a lot of displays, like several displays about, I did a lot of I looked at the curriculum and like what they are studying. So like it's like US history, like the high schoolers and middle schoolers, like US history, where to find that in like easily like in a big display on I don't know, 8.5 by 11 like sheet, where to find US history facts, where to find here are our web or like where to find questions about space or physics. Sorry, if you hear popping, it's my fidget. I'm so sorry. I gotta use it. Where to find, I'll use my quieter one. Where to find like where our website resources are. Like, hey, do you have homework questions? Here's here's exactly where to find it on our library website. Like, and then I usually make like a little it's like a map basically of where to find it, how to get there exactly, specifically. And also hey, if you don't know where the nonfiction section is, it's here. Here's where to find the adult nonfiction section. Here is exactly where to find the teen nonfiction section. And kind of things like that. Just like easy like maps, I guess, of where to find homework help that you don't necessarily have to find an adult for. And I put that in like on tables and on like by things that they are easily seeing all the time, not in like a corner, because I don't feel like they're going to find it off in a corner on a wall. So
it's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And there was one other question, just how you kind of balance the isolation and kind of the nooks, although there will be noise when we've got our teens, and how you have that in a position next to maybe some other teens or other customers that need a little more quiet, and how you're balancing those two elements.
So I'm really lucky that my teen space is in, so it's an open space. Like there are almost no like closed off locations at my branch. It's kind of this big open, it's a big, like twice the size, like about the size of a school gym, but like big open space. So you kind of have to build the cubicle situation by yourself. But because the adult, I'm very lucky. I usually do teen programs after school and after dinner, so like 6 o'clock. So a lot of adults tend to not be in the branch, which is helpful. I'll also like especially like in that space, but the teen space is actually right next to a larger room, like a larger sort of like fake room, which is the computer area where adults use. And so that, because the teen space like ceiling is here, and then the adult like big empty room of like big, it's not empty, but big empty computer room is like right next to it with like a much higher like ceiling, though for the location of this teen space really helps bring the noise, like kind of condenses the noise to that one space, just really by luck, which has been really helpful. But because we get our teens that use our space the most tend to either be middle schoolers or like older high schoolers. They're both quieter populations, but when there is noise complaints, we truly just ask them to like bring it down, but that doesn't happen often. And I do think that's mostly an architecture thing, which is very lucky for me. So
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And I think I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on the chat here. I see a specific question for Stephanie about Thrive.
All right, yeah. Oh, well, let me get in here. I'm sorry. So Thrive, who leads meditation and yoga certified? Okay, so let me break this down a little bit. So for Thrive, what I like to encourage, and even in Emerge, are our books, right, that are in our collection. So for example, this is Making Space, Creating a Home Meditation Practice by Thich Nhat Hanh. And the beauty of this is that you can just open the book and help them practice awareness. Meditation is awareness. You don't necessarily need to be certified as a librarian to teach meditation and breathing techniques. So to give you an example of what I would have done during Teen Thrive, when we get to the part of awareness, I would invite them to ground, just scan your body. Can you release any tension anywhere? Being mindful of your jaw, being mindful of your forehead. Are your hands clenched? Are they open and expansive? Shoulders. Being mindful of any tension in your stomach. Just those basic awareness of bringing back to the body invites an invitation for them to be ready to receive something you might read from a book for them. So for example, I would feature Making Space today. And then I would read to them just with a guided kind of reading, breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. So what we would do is just repeat that reading. And if they were comfortable enough, they can read it themselves. Don't need to be certified for that. So it's great because you get to promote your book and your own collection, encourage them to check it out and take the practices home. When it comes to actual certified yoga instructors, we do make sure that we get credentials. We do make sure that they have some type of cred in the community. We have Kit Clark. She's our yoga certified person. She's my go-to partner for Emerge. She came in and did a session with them and they were uncomfortable at first. They weren't sure how to do yoga, you know, and like, what practice is this? You want me to stand in mountain pose, tree pose? What is that? So it's a matter of just getting Kit comfortable with them, coming to the home base on Monday, just hanging out. Hey, I'm Kit Clark. I'm going to start doing yoga with you. What do you think of that? Then featuring her. So she's built a rapport with them. So when, hey, we're going to have Kit Clark in 2 weeks. You guys ready? You remember Kit, right? Yeah, okay, I'm going to come to that. I'm telling you, with the emerging adults, it's all about creating a bond with them first. And then when you start throwing resources and you start putting different types of opportunities in front of them, because you've built that trust, they're going to be 99.9% more inclined to go to the resource that you suggested. If you just hand them a pamphlet and say, oh, go talk to Kit Clark, you want to learn about meditation, they're not going to do that. But if you bring Kit Clark to the library, you have her be involved in Emerge programming, you have them be involved in Teen Thrive. When you create a special program where you're going to actually pay her and take the money out of your budget, she's going to have people show up. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit of the questions for that one.
Thank you, Stephanie. So true. It's just like, I don't mean this like, it's like baby steps for the teens. You know, you got to go incrementally. And
You do. Yeah. And one last point I want to say with Emerge, I'm very, very passionate and I'm an advocate for this group because I feel like we have nourished the teens, right? We've given them so many resources, and Tia and Isaiah and Amber and all this stuff that we're doing, but then they age out and then what? And I feel like we've undone all this nourishment. So that's why I'm a huge advocate for them. I really hope that one day we have emerging adult programming in some shape or form in all library systems. So again, if you want to talk more about this with me, I can talk all day about it. Please reach out to me and I'll be glad to help in any way possible.
Stephanie, there's one more question, and I know you could talk for like 20 hours on it, but this is the crux. The crux in the chat is, you know, there are systems that aren't doing anything. They're not reaching the emerging adult population. The question is,
right.
is it who's running it? Is it teens? Is it adults? And this is kind of the $64,000 question.
Yeah.
And then how did you advocate and promote this with your administration? Can you just like in a couple minutes touch on that?
Definitely. This is the crossroads. Okay, this is the real deal. So the starting point is we saw a need in teens. We saw that teens were aging out. There's no programming, right? So I pitched it to admin immediately. I said, hey, we have to do something based on the heart-to-heart talk I had with the 2 teens. Okay, so I go to admin, I talk to Kathleen O'Connell. She's like, yes, let's do it, right? So we just start from scratch. And then so I just started offering something with them. My background, first of all, is case management, workforce development, and mentoring and coaching young adults. So I see this need and I felt very compelled to do that. So by creating just a place of belonging for them, for connection, consistency, and community, that's when we started to see the numbers starting to build. Now, the problem that we're having is these are adults, they're 18 to 25, right? But I was hired in teen section. So it's really the potential here, when I'm having conversations with Carrie, Dr. Gorham, Paul Chasen, Nate Kepler, is that this potentially one day could be its own department. You know, there were times when we didn't have a teen section. This can truly be one day an emerging adult department, which creates job opportunities. It creates more awareness, more partnerships, creates more empowerment for cornerstones of library systems. I mean, think big, think big. But as of right now, if you are a small branch, maybe you're just a one-room branch, put a poster up that says, hey, emerging adults are welcome here. At least provide the visual, right? If you're an urban library like Hagerstown or Baltimore City, you have the power to have an emerging adult coordinator, which leads to emerging adult leads. I mean, I've got ideas for days. And my prayer is that I hope that I'm presenting at Maryland Library Association so I can lay this all out for you one day.
Yeah, it's just, there's so much opportunity here and potential. So great work, and for sharing, appreciate it. We've got a few more minutes before 11. You all are free to unmute and ask any of our presenters anything that you're thinking about. I don't know whether I've missed anything in the chat. Feel free, any planning team members, see what I've missed. Oh, we got Kathleen's hand up, so I'm going to jump to Kathleen. Thank you, Kathleen.
Hi, I put it in the chat, but it probably missed it. A lot of us are struggling with understaffing, like there's barely enough of us. And I get excited by these Teen Connects, and I go back to my library saying, we could do this, this, this. And the answer is often, no, we cannot spare you off the desk where you need to answer the phone. So how do we do, is there a way out of this? And any suggestions would be welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the big question with staffing, and I know that you are not alone. There are many that are short-staffed and facing the scheduling challenges. So I'm going to just open it up and see what anyone has to add to brainstorming to make any new initiatives get off the ground.
I don't want to speak for Tia in any way, but I was one of the branches that did the Building Buddies program. And we were definitely a branch that, especially in summers and our busiest time, definitely dealt with some staffing issues. And I felt like the partnership that we had with Future Makers, where we had these kits pre-made, done, no problem, was a huge, it just helped staff time a lot. We didn't have to come up with this idea. We didn't have to take time to get the supplies together. It was just done. And I think those partnerships can really be worth exploring, especially when you have staffing issues, because maybe someone else can kind of do the work for you.
Yeah, when you don't have the internal capacity, then to look for those partners and those that can help kind of fill the gap for some of it. Got a couple other hands, and I know there's a question for Isaiah. I don't know whether Amy and Tia, whether you are responding to this question about staffing. If you are, this is the time that we'll take those additional thoughts.
Yeah, mine is about the staffing. I work in the St. Michael's Library, which is already one of the smallest in the state. And of course, we lost staff. And I do a lot of passive programming with my teens because I don't have good space. They're doing a renovation, but it's going to be a few years. So I do a lot of like art carts or the craft bags or things like that they can kind of, that way I can do both. And I know that that's just something that's really unique to St. Michael's. A lot of times, you know, I can just run back and forth because our teen section is right next door to the circ desk. So.
Yeah, that's the portability, that's another great suggestion to consider. Let's see. All right. Question for Isaiah. Isaiah, did you pick up on that one? Okay.
Yeah, I saw it. So things that we learned from Bowie. Bowie was a unique situation. We had a lot of teens that didn't actually want to be there for that one. Like we had a lot of parents that were like, you are going to this. And it makes sense for that community for that to happen. There's a lot of very involved parents and very stretched thin teens. So they just didn't really want to be there. So that was one of the things. I think if they were older, they would have probably made the best of their time. Because that was a question we asked day one, like who chose to be here and whose parents signed them up for this. And it was almost unanimously, my parents made me come to this. But then at the end, we asked, are you glad that you did? And it was almost unanimously, yes, I am glad that I was forced. That was not the case at Bowie. They were forced to go there. And by the end, they were hoping they never saw our faces again. And again, 100% fine. But things that we would have done a little bit differently had Bowie been maybe our third or our fourth camp is we would have done a lot more icebreakers with them. Like we really shied away from icebreakers at first because, you know, teens always think icebreakers are so cringy and they don't want to participate. But the icebreakers that we did with some of the other camps were very involved with like decision making and like ethical dilemmas and things like that. So it was like, would you rather, like which this or that? And they loved them. That was one of the things that we got in all of our feedback is like more icebreakers, which never thought I would hear teens say more icebreakers, but they really enjoyed those. So that's something that we would do. They needed a little bit more, how do I, like not hand holding, but they needed a lot more guided discussion at Bowie. And the thing is that all of our camps were so different that it's hard to say that things that we did in later camps would have worked at Bowie as well. I think Bowie just needed a lot more hand holding and guided discussion than was provided to them. The question about younger kids, we did have a lot of 10th and 11th graders, especially like rising 10th and 11th graders that were waitlisted that didn't make the list. And we also closed our registration fairly early because we had so many on our wait list. We closed registration for camps once the wait list met 25, just because that's a lot of people. That's like almost 50 people registered for 20 slots. So we had the option of getting rid of that 9th grade selection and just saying rising 10th through recent grads, and we still would have been able to fill the slots most likely. I think that there is a time and a place for a social justice something for teens. I do not think it is a 5-hour or 5-day, 7-hour camp. I think it could be like maybe a weekend seminar, that kind of thing, where you spend maybe like 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday, something like that might work for them. But I don't think that a full camp like ours was for them. And I saw another one in here that I'm just going to go ahead and answer. The icebreakers that they really liked Would You Rather. And we did it both fun and like we did a social justice themed one. Like, would you do this or do that? They liked those. Any of the ones that they had to get up and move around and they had to like argue their decision making, they loved it. So like icebreakers where they have to like, you know, come up with mnemonic devices and things like that, they didn't care for. But those where they had to actually voice their opinion and then like say why they think that, they really enjoyed.
That's great, Isaiah. So much interest. And I know there's something else about the marketing And did you work with local activist groups? Maybe what we'll do is, I just want to try to stay on schedule here a little bit, but I'm also trying to make sure we get all these covered. If you can give any more of the specifics, like the examples about what were did you rather this or this, what this would be, if we can maybe put a little cheat sheet of icebreakers that you might have used or resources that you utilized, we could put that into your page and the website so that can be available for folks.